Hi everyone, my name is Gina Garcia and I work for Sustainable Works, an environmental nonprofit here in Santa Monica that works with the city of Santa Monica to promote sustainability in the community. And one of the things that we do is the Sustainable Santa Monica Student Poster Contest, and this is the 17th year of the poster contest. And this year's theme is Think Globally, Grow Locally. That's the main theme, but we're really going to talk about cultivating sustainable food through community gardens and urban farming. So, what is a community garden? It's pretty easy. A community garden is a single piece of land gardened collectively by a group of people. It's not your backyard garden where just you and your family work on it, but it's a garden where people in the community can join in and help grow produce. Well, the city of Santa Monica has many gardens, and so we're just going to go through a list of the different ones that they offer. You don't need to remember all of this, but it's just for you to get an idea of what's going on in the city. So the longest standing garden is the Main Street Community Garden. It's on Main Street, and it has 77 plots. And a plot is an area where people garden, and you get a plot and you keep it for as long as you want. There's very high demand for plots these days, so it's a long wait list. But there are 77 plots that people garden separately. This community garden also offers breakfast the second Saturday of the month, and they have monthly workshops. The photo in the bottom corner is a photo from a workshop, all different kinds of workshops, seeds, growing different kinds of vegetables, flowers. So this is the longest standing community garden, and you'll notice that a lot of the community gardens have similar offerings. There's a Euclid Park Community Garden, which it's very small. It only has 11 plots. 2 plots are specifically for schools. It also offers plots for handicapped, and it has composting and soil building plots. So it's really important to take the waste that we have from our gardens and from our vegetable and create compost with them, which turns into soil, as opposed to putting it in the trash and sending it to the landfill. The next garden is Park Drive Community Garden. This has 38 plots, so it's medium size, and this garden gets a lot of visits from schools. And then we have the Ishihara Park Learning Garden. It's one of the biggest ones. It has about 800 square feet of growing space. And this is different from the other gardens in that there's not individual plots. So this is a real much even more of a community garden where everyone works on the same area. And they have specific work days on Mondays and Wednesdays when people come in and can spend time working in the garden, composting, doing whatever needs to be done. The first Saturday of the month, they have an orchard care crew because there is an orchard there. There's 3 orange trees and some peach trees that need to be taken care of. And the third Saturday of the month, like Main Street, has a breakfast, pancakes in the park, so you can go and have some pancakes and work in the garden. This garden also hosts workshops for schools. It's an education site, and it also has a community composting system. In the back of the photo, you'll see students composting there. And this is Marine Park Community Garden. That little triangle in the middle is what the area used to look like, and now on the right you see what it looks like with the communal growing space. So this has both. It has 12 individual plots, and then it has 450 square feet of communal growing space where people can work in these boxes together. It does have community composting like the other ones. It has work days, Monday and Wednesday. The workshops there are also offered. And then it has a garden open house, which is usually led by the California Climate Action Corps fellows that work with the community garden program. And this is our upcoming garden, and it's not really a garden, it's a farm. It's the 19th Street Community Farm and Wellness Garden. This, in the left photo, you can see near SMC where the plot exists. It's at 218 19th Street, and hopefully this is going to get underway this spring. And it's not going to have individual plots. It's going to look more like the photo on the right, where it's just big beds of produce that everyone can work on together. It's going to be called a farm because it's going to have more than just growing fruits and vegetables and flowers. There's going to be bees and chickens, so it's going to be more of a farm environment. The city's goal is really to create more green space in the city, and that's why we're not just talking about the city managed community gardens, but we're also talking about non-city community gardens. And the city really encourages people to garden in their backyard and create gardens anywhere that they can. The actual airport park is now going to be, once the airport is gone, is going to be turned into a facility, and the city is really striving to get a huge farm in there where they can have pigs and cows, and orchards and things like that. So there's non-city community gardens right now. There's one at Virginia Avenue near Virginia Avenue Park. It's operated by Growing Hope Gardens. There's a Will Rogers Learning Urban Generation Regenerative Farm. And then there's the Yale Street Garden, which supports Upward Bound House. That's women who've been abused. It supports them. So, talked about community gardens. Why are they so important? What are the benefits of community gardens? There's so many benefits. First of all, you have access to locally grown produce. It's nothing like going into your backyard or into your community garden and grabbing a fresh tomato or basil. It's just different than having those things shipped to a supermarket and then you going and picking them up. Water capturing. So when you have just blacktop or cement, the water from rain hits that and runs right off into the gutter and then into the ocean. So we're losing that water. But with gardens, anytime you put soil down and plants, it absorbs the water and it goes down and it refills our aquifers, so it allows us to have more drinking water. Community gardens are also great for wildlife habitat. You put flowers and plants and soil, you're going to get wonderful natural creatures, bees and butterflies. It's also great native plant habitat. So, we really want to try to grow natives here. They do best in our environment, and they require less water and less care. Community gardens can also be great monarch way stations. So when monarchs travel from north to south, they need a place to stop and rest. They can stop at our gardens. Gardens are great for carbon sequestration. So there's two major carbon sinks. A sink is something that absorbs carbon from the atmosphere. One is the ocean and one is soil, trees, plants. So the more greenery we have, the more soil, the more plants we have, the soil really does absorb the carbon from the atmosphere. The gardens also offer localized organics recycling or composting. So instead of wasting that food and sending it, any kitchen scraps or garden scraps, instead of sending that to the landfill, we can use it to make more soil. Gardening is physical exercise due to bending and digging. If anyone's ever taken a shovel and having to dig a hole, you know that you start to work up a sweat. Moving compost around, carrying sacks of soil, things like that really gives you great exercise, and it's in the outdoors. And studies have shown that gardening or being in nature is really great mental therapy. It's great for your soul. So, being out in nature, working and talking to people is just a great way to have better mental therapy. And then there's cross-generational and cross-cultural experiences. Not many of us have contact with elderly, maybe our grandparents or older aunts and uncles, things like that, but we tend to not interact with them as much as we should. So community gardens are a great place to have that, because we have the school visits with little kids all the way up to people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, working together and connecting. And also cross-cultural experiences where people meet people from other cultures and can share experiences. And then you're out in the garden, you're eating fresh produce, it's really healthy. Community gardens allow people to get together, talk about the recipes they make, give each other suggestions for more healthy eating. So tons of benefits there. And then in addition to the gardens and producing fruits and vegetables, they also have programs that they offer. So one is a produce donation program. So monthly gleaning from community gardens happens all the time. And gleaning means gathering. So you're gathering fruits and vegetables that maybe aren't going to be eaten or used. And this program partners with the Community Corporation of Santa Monica, which is low-income housing. And since it started 2 years ago in February, they've donated 1,500 pounds of produce that normally would go into a landfill. And there's also the Community Composting and Edible Food Recovery Program. So they partner with Venice Family Clinic for weekly produce distributions. And the photo on the left is the fellows that work with the Community Gardens program, and they collect the produce and they deliver it to people in need. A lot of food can get damaged and not end up being used, and it gets sent to the landfill. But this program, since April of 2000, has diverted 40,000 pounds of produce from landfill. And then edible food has been given to people who in need, as opposed to going to the landfill. That's been about 25,000 pounds of edible food has been given to people who need it. And the program, community composting program, has trained 50 residents to learn how to compost. So, we talked about community gardens. How is that different from urban farming? Well, in farms, you do have produce and vegetables, but you tend to not have flowering plants, things like that. But you do have other types of food sources like livestock and other sources, and we're going to talk about that. And urban farming is different from going out in the country with the big red barn. This is farming in the city, and so there's a lot of different places that you can have urban farming, and we'll talk about that. So one thing you can do is you can keep bees. And beginning in January of 2011, Santa Monica adopted an ordinance that allows backyard beekeeping, but it can only be in a single family home. So it can't be in a multi-family home or an apartment. And you do have to register with animal control. They just want to be aware of who's having bees in their yard. So bees are dying from something called colony collapse disorder, and no one's 100% sure of the cause. It's a combination of different things. One is pesticides being applied to kill, unwanted insects, diseases, things like that. But the problem is when you kill the bad stuff, you also kill the good stuff. Bees also get diseases just like humans, and those diseases are mainly coming from how they're managed. So they're not in the best environment sometimes, and that can cause diseases. And most people, like, when you think of beekeeping, they think, oh, I don't want bees because I don't want to get stung, or I don't want a swarm. But many domestic strains have been bred so that they're much more gentle and they tend to swarm less. So what are the benefits of beekeeping? Well, bees pollinate up to 30% of our food. So without bees, we'd lose that percentage. And when that breaks down and we don't have that food, it creates a trickle down. So you lose species, you lose food, it starts to affect other areas of nature. Bees also give us honey, wax, and other useful products. And these products are locally produced. So they're right in your own backyard or right in your community garden. They're not being shipped from, another part of the state or another part of the country. They're local. And doing backyard beekeeping allows bees to live in a more natural condition. So it can increase their survival rate. So maybe prevent some of those things that are killing our bees. The other thing we can do to create farms in Santa Monica is raise chickens. In Santa Monica, people are allowed to keep 13 fowl, and a fowl includes chickens, turkeys, ducks. No roosters, not allowed to have roosters. But you must give them proper shelter and sufficient sustenance. So you need to feed them well and keep them housed. Benefits of raising chickens, they're really easy. You don't need a lot of equipment, just a pen to keep them in. You do want to protect them from things, sometimes we get coyotes or people's dogs, or rodents can attack them, so you want to keep them safe. You get, like with bees and the wax and the honey, you get locally raised products, so fresh eggs, especially with the cost of eggs and shortage right now, that's really important. People really enjoy them. They enjoy having chickens. They treat them as their pets, and they're really good for kids. And I have a friend who has chickens, and a lot of her kitchen scraps, instead of putting them in the trash, or if she has too many for composting, she feeds her chickens with them, and they love it. So those are some of the things that would turn a garden into a farm. But there's also other alternatives for growing, and those are rooftop and vertical gardens. And a rooftop garden is kind of self-explanatory. It's having a garden on a roof, and that's what the image there is a garden on top of the roof. But there's also vertical gardens, and vertical gardens use a vertical structure like a wall, a trellis, or a fence to support plants. So instead of growing flat on the ground, they're growing up and down. The vertical gardens can be on freestanding walls or attached walls. Plants can grow in towers of pots, or that's also considered a vertical garden. So the benefits of rooftop and vertical gardening, first, they produce food. So that's great, just locally grown food, just like when we talked about our community gardens. They allow for more production per square foot. So not only growing horizontally along the ground, but any wall that's going up, you're using that empty space that's not being used. They reduce urban heat island effect. And the urban heat island effect is when we get rid of all our plants and greenery when we're building cities, and we put in cement and blacktop. And cement and blacktop tends to absorb the heat, so it keeps those areas warm. Where produce, vegetables, plants, trees keep it cooler. They emit moisture. They create shade. So it really creates a cooler environment. It improves air quality. Plants, as we know, take in carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. It saves water by capturing rainwater, like we talked about with the community gardens. Wherever there's plants, it's going to and soil, it's going to absorb the water as opposed to having urban runoff. It creates wildlife habitats for wildlife, just like community gardens, and then it enhances aesthetics. They're actually quite attractive. Look at, if you see the wall there, imagining walls covered with produce like that as opposed to just a cement plain wall. It really cools the area, makes it more beautiful, brings in wildlife. There's so many benefits. And as we run out of land space to grow, continue to grow horizontally, vertical gardening, gardening and farming is the answer. So I've given you a lot of information about community gardens and urban farming and the benefits. So now it's time to create a poster. So I've educated you. You need to educate the public by creating a poster. And these posters are displayed so the community can see them. Typically, they've been being displayed at the Santa Monica Main Library. This year, we're working with the farmers markets to maybe display them there so a larger audience can see them. But hasn't been finalized. And then they'll be displayed, not just the winning posters, but all the posters will be displayed at our event at the end of the year, which I'll explain in a second. So basically for your poster, we want you to show us how community gardens and urban farming benefit the environment and our community. The judges will judge in four different categories, and there's kindergarten through 2nd, 3rd through 5th, 6th through 8th, and 9th through 12th. If you're watching this video, you're probably a middle schooler or a high schooler. The winners in the following categories: grand prize, 2nd place, 3rd place, and honorable mention. And all entries will be judged on creativity, because remember, it is an art contest, so we want you to draw, and how well your entry shows the theme of this year's contest. So you really need to make sure it's themed around community gardens and urban farming. There's some rules here to follow. Only one poster submission per student. You can create more than one poster if you like, but you can only turn one in to be judged. Posters must be original artwork. That's all that's accepted. You can't take someone else's idea, copy something from a magazine, a newspaper, or the internet. I will supply you with the paper. It's going to be 11 by 17. It's white paper, and you can use pens, paint, crayons, markers, pencils, pastels to create your poster. And again, the dimensions, as I mentioned, are 11 by 17, but a minimum of 8.5 by 11 is required. So the theme is long, think globally, grow locally, cultivating sustainable food through community gardens and urban farming. That whole title does not need to appear on your poster. Just think globally, grow locally should appear there. But if you want to, for clarification, you feel people could understand what your poster is about more, you can add community gardens, urban farming, any of those words, or any other words that you'd like. But remember, it is an art contest, so we do want to make sure it is mostly art. All entries become the property of the city of Santa Monica, but you do usually give them back. And this is really vital. And for middle school and high schoolers, it's kind of odd that I have to say it, but it's really important to put your name, school, grade, and teacher's name on your poster so that we can find you, especially if you're a winner. So really put that on one side of the poster, and then make sure you turn the poster over and draw on the other side. That's something else that I do have to remind you. So all your information on one side, draw on the other side. And posters are due Friday, April 4th, which is the Friday before spring break. So once you turn in your poster, you won't have to think about this over spring break. And then the last slide is about our big celebration that I mentioned earlier that we have at the end of the year. Everyone's invited, not just winners, but anyone who participated, students, friends, families, teachers. The event is on Wednesday, May 14th in the afternoon, 3:45 to 5:15, and I'll follow up with teachers and send all this information out. It's at the Annenberg Community Beach House, so a great location. We celebrate all the winners and all the participants. All the posters will be there on display. And there's prizes. There's prizes for the winners, but there's also prizes when you get a prize drawing ticket when you enter. You can win a Blick art supply gift certificate. Annenberg always gives us either free passes or beautiful towels. There's a lot of gifts that people can enter and win. And then the prizes for the actual poster contest winners, the honorable mention prize is $10. The 3rd place prize is a $25 gift card. The 2nd place prize is a $50 gift card. And the grand prize winner is a $100 gift card. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you participate, and we look forward to seeing your amazing art. Thank you.